On my 51st birthday, my wife raised her glass of champagne in front of all our guests and announced she was leaving me for a younger man. And my daughters started applauding happily. I calmly pushed my plate aside, stood up, and said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "Stay happy, girls, but know one thing, I am not your biological father. I adopted you from an agency out of pity, and today, my pity has run out." The silence that fell over that room was so heavy you could feel it on your skin. 30 people sat with their mouths open. Gwen froze with her glass in hand. Ashley turned pale, as if her soul had been ripped out. Victoria let out a stifled scream and collapsed into her chair. But that wasn't the worst thing I did that night. What came after, what I revealed in the following days, destroyed everything they thought they had. Because while my wife was planning her new life of luxury with her lover, while my daughters dreamed of inheriting my fortune and splitting it with their mother, I had been preparing something far more devastating, something none of them saw coming. Let me tell you how an entire family celebrated my public humiliation, and how, in silence, I took everything from them. Absolutely everything. That night, the private dining room of the city's most expensive steakhouse was decorated with gold and silver balloons, with white orchids on every table. I had spent $5,000 on the dinner alone. French wine, lobster, live jazz, everything perfect to celebrate half a century of life. I was seated at the head of the long table, surrounded by friends, business colleagues, and a few relatives. Gwen, my wife of 26 years, was to my right. She was wearing that fitted red dress I had bought her the week before. $2,000. She had chosen it personally. Ashley and Victoria, my daughters, were seated across from me. Ashley had that air of superiority she always carried. Victoria was checking her iPhone every 5 minutes, as if being there were a sacrifice. The dinner was going well, or so it seemed. People were laughing, toasting, congratulating me. I smiled, nodded, thanked them, but inside, I already knew what was coming because 6 months prior, I had discovered something that changed everything. Then came the moment for the toast. Gwen stood up, took her glass, and waited for the music to lower. Everyone turned to look at her. She smiled. That smile I knew so well. The same smile she used when she got what she wanted. "I want to make a special toast tonight," she began with a soft, almost sweet voice. "To my dear husband, Arthur. To these 26 years together." There was applause, some awes from the older ladies. I didn't move a muscle. I just watched her. "But I also want to make a toast," she continued, and her tone changed. It became firmer, more decided. "To my freedom, to my new life, to the courage to choose happiness at 45. The murmuring began. People looked at each other, confused. Gwen didn't stop. "Arthur, thank you for everything you gave me. The house, the trips, the comfortable life. But there is something you never gave me. Passion, excitement, youth." Someone coughed uncomfortably. I remained motionless, staring at her. "So today, on your birthday, I want to announce that I'm leaving. I'm leaving with Marcus, a man who actually knows how to make me feel alive. A 3-5-year-old man who truly values me." And that was when it happened. Ashley stood up and started clapping. Slow at first, then faster. Victoria followed her with a huge smile on her face. "Way to go, Mom," Victoria shouted. Finally, Ashley, always more controlled, added with that cold voice she used, "Dad, don't be offended, but Mom has the right to be happy. You were never really present. It was always your work, your company, your meetings." 30 people watched the scene, as if it were a play in the theater of the absurd, some with horror, others with morbid curiosity. My 2 business partners, seated at the back, looked at me, waiting for my reaction. Gwen remained standing, triumphant, as if she had just won something important. And then I stood up slowly, pushed my plate to the side, wiped my mouth with the napkin, placed it on the table, and took a deep breath. "That's fine, Gwen," I said calmly. My voice sounded clear in the tense silence that had formed. "If that's what you want, go ahead. Go with your younger man. Enjoy your new life." I saw the relief on her face. She expected screaming, drama, begging. "But since we are revealing truths in public," I continued, and now I looked directly at Ashley and Victoria, "I think it's fair that my daughters know something I've hidden from them their entire lives." Ashley frowned. Victoria stopped smiling. I am not your biological father. The silence became absolute. I adopted you from an agency when you were 3 months and 6 months old. Gwen told me she couldn't have children, that she was infertile. I, like a fool in love, agreed to adopt. I raised you. I fed you. I clothed you. I paid for every private school, every trip to Europe, every whim. Ashley had turned pale. Victoria was shaking her head. And today, I said, raising my voice so everyone could hear. Today, as you celebrate your mother abandoning me, as you applaud my humiliation, I want you to know that my pity for you has officially run out. Gwen tried to speak. Arthur, you can't. I can't what? I cut her off. Tell the truth? The same truth you just shouted in front of everyone? I turned back to my daughters. You wanted your mother to be happy? Perfect. Now all 3 of you can leave together, build that wonderful life with Marcus without me, without my money, without anything I built. Dad, wait. Ashley tried to approach. I'm not your dad, I responded coldly. You just said it yourself. I was never present, remember? It was always my work, my company. Well, now you can live without that work you hate so much. Victoria began to cry, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of rage, of disbelief. I grabbed my jacket from the back of the chair, pulled out my wallet, and dropped a stack of cash on the table. This covers the bill, I said, looking at Gwen. Enjoy dessert. I'm leaving. And I walked toward the exit while 30 pairs of eyes followed me in silence. But that revelation was only the beginning. Because what none of them knew is that 6 months earlier, I had discovered everything. 6 months before that birthday, on a random Tuesday in March, I came home early. I had canceled a meeting because I had a splitting headache. It was 3 p.m. Gwen didn't expect me until 8 p.m. As always, I opened the front door slowly. The house was quiet. I walked up the stairs toward our master bedroom and heard something. Laughter, whispers. And then Gwen's voice, between gasps, saying, "My husband is an idiot. He never suspects anything." I didn't kick the door open like in the movies. I didn't scream. I didn't make a scene. I simply stood there in the hallway, listening to my wife of 26 years sleeping with another man in our bed, in the sheets I paid for, in the house I built with my own hands, working 8-hour days for a decade. I heard everything. Every word, every laugh, every insult directed at me. "What if he finds out?" asked a young man's voice. "He won't find out," Gwen responded with amusement. "Arthur only thinks about his company. Besides, when I divorce him, I'm taking half of everything. He has assets worth over $8 million. I'm going to keep $4 million, the house, the cars, and you and I are going to live in Miami like royalty." The man laughed. "And the girls?" "Ashley and Victoria are on my side. They hate their father as much as I do, always absent, always working. They'll testify in my favor if necessary." My lawyer already confirmed it. I went down the stairs in silence, left the house, got into my car, drove to my office, and there, sitting at my desk, I made the most important decision of my life. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to make a dramatic scene. I was going to destroy them legally, methodically, without mercy. I called Michael, my lawyer and best friend since college. I told him everything, every detail. Michael listened in silence and then said something I will never forget. "Arthur, if we do this right, if we have patience, they won't know what hit them until it's too late." And so began my plan. First, I hired a private investigator, the best in the city. I paid him $10,000 up front to document every move Gwen made, every meeting with Marcus, every text, every call, every lie. In 2 weeks, I had enough proof to sink a ship. Photographs, videos, audio recordings. Marcus turned out to be a personal trainer at an exclusive gym, 35 years old. Gwen had met him 6 months prior when she signed up to get in shape. Life is so ironic. But I didn't do anything with those proofs. Not yet. Second, I began to reorganize my assets. That was where Michael showed his true talent. Turns out that 26 years ago, when Gwen and I got married, she had signed a prenuptial agreement. Back then, I was just starting my import business. I had almost nothing, but my father, a wise man, forced me to protect myself. Gwen signed that document without even reading it. She was so excited about the wedding, the white dress, the honeymoon in Cancun, that she signed whatever I put in front of her. That document clearly stated, in the case of divorce due to proven infidelity, she would receive nothing, absolutely nothing. Michael pulled the document from the archives. It was impeccable, valid, notarized, with witnesses. But there's a problem, Michael told me. The girls. Even if they aren't biologically yours, you adopted them legally. They have rights. I know, I replied. But I have a plan for that too. You see, when I adopted Ashley and Victoria, I established a trust fund for each of them, savings accounts that grew over 25 and 22 years respectively. Each account held approximately $300,000 money I planned to give them when they turned 30 if they demonstrated responsibility and maturity. But that trust had clauses that I drafted myself with Michael when the girls were little. One of those clauses stated, the beneficiary shall lose total access to funds if she demonstrates grave disrespect, extreme ingratitude, or intentional harm to the grantor. In simple terms, if they disrespected me severely, they lost everything. During the next 6 months, I acted like the perfect husband. I came home smiling. I bought gifts for Gwen, took her to dinner. I planned my own birthday party and spent $5,000 to make it perfect. Meanwhile, the investigator kept documenting everything. Gwen became careless, confident. She saw Marcus 3 times a week, sometimes in hotels, sometimes in an apartment he rented. Once she even took him to our beach house on the coast. My daughters, Ashley and Victoria, also showed their true faces during those months. One day I heard Ashley talking on the phone with a friend. I can't wait for Mom to divorce Dad. I'm going to convince her to give me my share of the inheritance early. I want to open a boutique downtown with Dad's money, obviously. Victoria wasn't any better. I heard her say at a family gathering, Dad is so boring. All he does is work. Mom deserves someone more fun. I recorded those conversations. All of them. I also discreetly checked the joint bank accounts. Gwen had been withdrawing small amounts for months. $500 here, $1,000 there. She accumulated almost $22,000 in a secret account, probably for her new life with Marcus. Michael and I met every week in his office. We reviewed every detail, every document, every piece of evidence. Are you sure you want to do this? He asked me once. It's your family, Arthur. They stopped being my family the day they decided to betray me, I replied. Now they are just 3 women who made the mistake of underestimating the wrong man. I transferred ownership of the house to one of my companies. Technically, the house was no longer in my personal name. It was in the name of Arthur Enterprises, LLC. Gwen never checked those documents. She trusted me to handle everything. The 3 luxury cars they drove, Gwen's Mercedes, Ashley's BMW, and Victoria's Audi I also transferred. They were now company property, part of corporate assets. Even the credit cards they used were linked to corporate accounts, not personal ones. On paper, I personally owned almost nothing. My house, my cars, my main bank accounts, everything was protected under legal structures Michael meticulously designed. Gwen believed she was going to divorce a man with $8 million in personal assets. The reality was that I, as a private individual, had barely $200,000 declared. Everything else was in corporations, offshore trusts, international accounts, and best of all, it was completely legal. When the time comes, Michael told me, and she files for divorce, it's going to be the surprise of her life. But I wanted more than to surprise her. I wanted to humiliate her the way she planned to humiliate me. That's why I planned my birthday as the perfect stage. I invited everyone, friends, family, business partners, influential people in the city. I wanted witnesses. I wanted everyone to see who Gwen and my daughters really were. The investigator had confirmed to me that Gwen planned to announce the divorce that night. Marcus had suggested she do it in public to mark her liberation. How stupid. So, I prepared my announcement too. The night before the birthday, I was alone in my office. I looked out the window at the illuminated city. 26 years of marriage. 25 years raising Ashley. 22 years raising Victoria. It had all been a lie. But tomorrow the truth would come to light, and they would pay for every insult, every betrayal, every moment they underestimated me. Michael called me that night. Are you ready? He asked. More than ready, I replied. Tomorrow changes everything. And I was right. But even I didn't imagine how far this would go. After leaving the restaurant that night of my birthday, I drove to a hotel downtown. I had reserved an executive suite 3 days prior. I had a suitcase with me that I had packed in secret clothes, documents, my laptop, everything I needed to disappear from Gwen and my daughter's lives for a while. I poured myself a whiskey, sat by the window, and waited. I knew exactly what was happening at that moment. Gwen would be trying to calm the guests. Ashley and Victoria would be soaking in the bomb that just exploded in their lives. The rumors would already be circulating, calls would start, messages would arrive in an avalanche. My phone started buzzing 10 minutes later. Gwen. I declined the call. Then Ashley. Declined. Victoria. Declined. 20 calls in an hour. None answered. Finally, Gwen sent me a text message. Arthur, we need to talk. This is insanity. You can't just drop that information and disappear. Call me, please. I didn't reply. Another hour later, Ashley wrote, Dad, I know you're angry, but we need to clear this up. Is it true what you said? Are we really adopted? Why didn't you ever tell us? I didn't reply to that either. Victoria was more direct. This is a lie, right? You're lying to make us feel bad. You're a manipulator. You always were. I smiled reading that message. Perfect. Every word of rage they wrote was another piece of evidence for Michael. The next morning, I called Michael from the hotel. Start phase 2, I told him. Are you absolutely sure? He asked. Once we start this, there is no going back. I have never been more sure of anything in my life. Michael sighed. All right. I'm sending the documents this afternoon. The legal notifications will arrive tomorrow. I hung up and made myself a coffee. I opened my laptop and checked emails. 3 dozen messages, friends asking if I was okay, business partners expressing their support, some curious people wanting to know if the adoption thing was true. I replied only to the business messages. The others I left unread. That afternoon, while I was at the hotel, Michael made his move. He sent 3 certified envelopes, one for Gwen, one for Ashley, one for Victoria. Gwen's envelope contained the notification of frozen accounts. All credit cards linked to my name were canceled immediately. All joint bank accounts frozen. Access to any shared funds blocked. It also included a copy of the prenuptial agreement she signed 26 years ago, marked with yellow highlighter in the key sections, especially the part that said, in case of infidelity proven by photographic, testimonial, or documentary evidence, the unfaithful party waives any right to properties, assets, or income of the innocent spouse. And attached to the agreement, a manila envelope full of photographs, Gwen with Marcus entering hotels. Gwen with Marcus at our beach house. Gwen with Marcus kissing in the gym parking lot. 50 photographs in total, dated with timestamps. Ashley's envelope contained the notification of her trust fund being frozen $300,000 she could no longer touch. The notification explained the grave disrespect clause and specifically cited her words during my birthday. Dad, you were never really present. It was always your work, your company. It also included transcripts of recorded conversations where she talked about taking my money to open her boutique. Victoria's envelope was similar. Her trust fund also frozen, her words also documented, her plans to spend my money also exposed. I received the delivery confirmations at 6 p.m. All 3 envelopes had been signed for and received. Now I just had to wait. The call came 30 minutes later. Gwen. This time I answered. What the hell is this, Arthur? She screamed as soon as I picked up. You froze all the accounts, canceled my cards. Are you crazy? Hello, Gwen, I said calmly. Did you receive the photographs? Silence. A long, heavy silence. I can explain that, she stuttered finally. You don't need to explain anything. The images are quite clear. You and Marcus, 6 months of an affair, planning your new life in Miami with my money. Arthur, please, can we talk about this like adults? We already talked last night at my birthday in front of 30 people, remember? I didn't know you were going to. I'm going to say that about the girls. The girls, I repeated coldly. You mean Ashley and Victoria? The same ones who applauded when you announced you were leaving me? The same ones who said I was never present? They were excited. They didn't think. Exactly. They didn't think. None of you thought. And now you're going to pay the consequences. You can't do this. I have rights. We were married 26 years. Read the prenuptial agreement, Gwen. Page 3, paragraph 5. You signed it. It's notarized. It's completely legal. I heard sobbing on the other end, but they weren't sobs of sadness. They were of rage, of frustration. You're a monster, she whispered. No, Gwen. I'm simply a man who finally opened his eyes. A man who for 26 years worked 18 hours a day to give his family a life of luxury. A man who adopted 2 girls and raised them as if they were his own blood. A man who was betrayed by the 3 people he trusted most. The girls didn't know anything about me and Marcus, but they celebrated my humiliation, and that is enough. I hung up, turned off the phone. During the next 3 days, I stayed in the hotel. I worked from there. I had virtual meetings with my teams. I reviewed contracts, signed documents digitally. My company continued running perfectly without me physically in the office. Michael kept me informed of everything. Gwen had hired a lawyer, a guy named Uriah Miller, known for being aggressive in divorce cases. He charged $500 an hour. Let her spend, I told Michael. Every dollar she invests in that lawyer is a dollar less she has to survive. Gwen's lawyer sent a letter demanding immediate reinstatement of bank accounts, access to the house, and temporary spousal support of $10,000 monthly while the divorce was resolved. Michael responded with a 4-page letter. He attached the prenuptial agreement, the photographs, the audio recordings where Gwen admitted her plan to keep my money, and at the end, a simple sentence. My client has no legal obligation to provide maintenance to an unfaithful wife who violated the terms of her marital agreement. Ashley tried a different approach. She sent me a long email, tearful, pleading. Dad, I know I made mistakes. I know I said horrible things, but you are still my father. You raised me. You taught me everything. How can you just erase us from your life? I need that trust fund money. I have debts, $30,000 in credit cards. Please don't do this to me. I deleted the email without finishing it. Victoria went to the other extreme. She wrote me messages full of insults, called me old, bitter, said she always hated me, that I was never a good father, that I deserved everything happening to me. I saved every message, every insult. More evidence for Michael. On the 5th day after my birthday, I went back to the house. I knew Gwen and the girls wouldn't be there. Michael had coordinated a temporary restraining order, preventing them from approaching the property until the divorce case was resolved. The house was exactly as I had left it. I went up to my room, gathered more clothes, more documents, family photographs I wanted to keep. Not of Gwen, not of the girls, but of my parents, my grandparents, my life before this marriage. In Gwen's closet, I found something interesting. A box hidden under several coats. Inside were bank statements from her secret account, $22,000 accumulated. There were also receipts from jewelry stores. She had been buying gifts for Marcus with my money. A watch for $5,000. A gold chain for $2,000. Diamond stud earrings for $3,000. I took pictures of everything and sent them to Michael. This is pure gold, he replied. Misappropriation of marital funds. We can use this. That night, while I was packing the last things, the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. I looked out the window. It was Marcus, the famous Marcus, the 5-year-old personal trainer, muscular, tanned, with his black truck parked in my driveway. I opened the door. "Can I help you?" I asked with icy courtesy. "You must be Arthur," he said with an arrogant smile. "I'm Marcus, Gwen's boyfriend. I know perfectly well who you are. I saw your photos. Very photogenic, by the way." The smile wavered. "Look, sir, I came to speak man to man. Gwen told me everything. I know you're angry, but she and I truly love each other, and you are being very unfair with this whole legal thing." I crossed my arms. Unfair. Interesting choice of words coming from the man who slept with a married woman for 6 months. She wasn't happy with you, and you think you're going to make her happy with your personal trainer salary? How much do you make a month, Marcus? $3,000? $4,000? His jaw tensed. Money isn't everything. You're right, but it helps a lot when you want to live in Miami like a king, doesn't it? I looked him up and down. Gwen promised you $4 million. A house. Luxury cars. That was the real reason you were with her. No, it's love. The money. You don't know anything. I know more than you think. I pulled out my phone and showed him a photograph. Marcus, with another woman, kissing her. The photograph was dated 2 weeks ago. His face went pale. My investigator is very good, I said. Turns out you have 2 other clients, older women, wealthy, married. You promised them eternal love too. That's... Get off my property, I said firmly. He left without saying another word. The next morning, I sent Gwen the photos of Marcus with the other woman. I didn't write anything, just the images. 3 clear photos. Marcus kissing a blonde woman in her 50s. Marcus entering a hotel with her. Marcus receiving an envelope from her, probably money. Gwen called me 5 minutes later, crying, screaming, insulting Marcus, insulting me for sending her those photos, as if I were to blame for her lover being a liar. Now do you understand? I said calmly. The man you left me for, the man for whom you humiliated our marriage in front of 30 people, only wanted you for money. And now that he knows you're going to receive nothing, he's probably already looking for his next victim. You knew, she sobbed. You knew he was like that and didn't tell me. Why should I tell you? You chose to destroy our family. I just let you dig your own grave. I hung up before she could respond. 2 hours later, I received a call from Michael. I have news, he said. Gwen's lawyer filed a motion to invalidate the prenuptial agreement. He argues it was signed under coercion and that Gwen didn't fully understand the terms. And can that work? I asked, though I already knew the answer. No. We have witnesses who were present when it was signed. We have video of the entire meeting where the notary explained every clause. Gwen asked questions, signed voluntarily. It's all documented, but they're going to try anyway. It's their only option. Perfect. Let them spend money on battles they can't win. They also filed a request for temporary alimony. They say Gwen has no resources to support herself and that you have an obligation to provide. And what do we reply? I already prepared the response. Basically, that she has $22,000 in her secret account, that she spent thousands on gifts for her lover, that she violated the marital agreement, and that she has no right to a cent. That same afternoon, Ashley showed up at my office. She managed to get past security saying she was my daughter and it was a family emergency. My assistant called me, nervous. Mr. Arthur, your daughter Ashley is here. She says she needs to talk to you urgently. Let her in, I said. I wanted to see what she had to say. Ashley entered my office, looking very different from how I saw her at my birthday. No makeup, deep dark circles, wrinkled clothes. The pride had disappeared from her face. Dad, she began with a broken voice, I need to talk to you. I'm not your dad. You made that very clear on my birthday. I'm just the man who adopted you out of pity, remember? She bit her lip. I didn't mean that. I was angry. Mom had told me that. What had Mom told you? I interrupted her. That you were a bad father, that you only cared about money, that you deserved for her to leave you. Ashley looked down. She told us you never really loved us, that you only adopted us to appear to be a good man, that you were always ashamed of us. And you believed her without questioning it? Without asking me? She's my mother. Was? I corrected. She was your mother until you discovered she also lied to you about who I really am. Ashley sat down without being invited. She put her hands on my desk. Please. I need access to my trust fund. I have debts, $35,000. The banks are calling me. They're going to sue me. $35,000 on what? I asked, though I didn't really care. Credit cards, clothes, trips, things I needed. Things you needed, I repeated. For 25 years, I gave you everything. I paid for every whim, every trip to Europe, every designer bag, and it was never enough. I didn't know you were so. That you had so much control over everything. That is the problem, Ashley. You never cared to know. You only cared to spend. She wiped her tears with the back of her hand. What do you want me to do? Kneel? Beg? I don't want anything from you. Not anymore. Then you're going to let me fall? After 25 years? I got up from my chair, walked to the window, looked at the city below. When you were 7 years old, I began without turning to look at her. You got pneumonia. You were in the hospital for 2 weeks. I slept in a chair next to your bed. Every night, I didn't go to work. I didn't take calls. I was just there holding your hand, Reading you stories. I heard her shaky breathing behind me. When you were 15, your first heartbreak. A boy broke your heart. You cried for days. I canceled a business trip to Japan, a meeting worth $2 million, and stayed home cooking your favorite food, watching movies with you, telling you that you were special. Dad, when you turned 18, you wanted to study design in Paris. The university cost $60,000 a year. I paid every penny. 4 years, $240,000 in total. And when you graduated, you didn't even work a day in design. You said it was too hard, too competitive. I turned to look at her. Do you know how many times you said thank you for all that? 0. Not a single time. Ashley was crying silently. So yes, Ashley, I'm going to let you fall, because I finally understood that you never valued anything I did for you. You just expected more, always more. But I'm your daughter. No. You are a 25-year-old woman who needs to learn to fend for herself. Something I should have taught you a long time ago. She stood up. You're going to regret this. I don't think so. She left my office, slamming the door. That night, Victoria tried a different tactic. She sent me a video message. In the video, she was crying uncontrollably. She talked about how she missed me, how everything had been a misunderstanding, how I would always be her dad no matter what. It was pure acting, bad acting. I didn't reply. Then she sent me another message. If you don't give me my money back, I'm going to the media. I'm going to tell them you abandoned us, that you kicked us out of the house. I'm going to ruin your reputation. I screenshotted the message, sent it to Michael. Extortion, he replied. This only makes their case worse. A week after the birthday, Michael called me to his office for an important meeting. When I arrived, there was another man there, 50 years old approximately. Gray suit, leather briefcase. Arthur, this is Uriah Miller, Michael said, Gwen's lawyer. I raised an eyebrow. What is he doing here? Uriah cleared his throat. I came to propose a settlement, Mr. Arthur. Out of court. For the benefit of both parties. There are no both parties, I responded. There is an innocent party and a guilty party. I don't negotiate with traitors, Mr. Arthur. I understand you are hurt, but taking this to trial will be costly, long, public. The media is going to cover every detail. Do you really want your private life exposed like that? My private life was already exposed at my birthday in front of 30 witnesses by my own wife. I leaned back in the chair. So yes, I am perfectly comfortable going to trial. In fact, I look forward to it. Uriah exchanged a look with Michael. My client is willing to waive any claim on your business assets. She only asks for the house and a compensation of $500,000 to start over. I laughed. I actually laughed. $500,000? The house? The house that is in the name of my corporation? The house where she slept with her lover in my bed? Mr. Arthur, tell your client she will receive nothing. Not the house. Not money. Not apologies. That she signed an agreement that clearly stipulated the consequences of infidelity, and that now she will live with those consequences. Uriah sighed. You are making a mistake. A judge might have compassion. Judges have compassion for victims, not for adulteresses who plan to rob their husbands. I stood up. This meeting is over. Uriah stood up, defeated. Then see you in court. I'll be there. After Uriah left, Michael looked at me with concern. Arthur, you know there is a small chance a judge might grant Gwen something just for the years of marriage? I know, but I'm not conceding a single cent. I prefer to spend $1 million on lawyers than give $100,000 to her. Michael nodded. Then we prepare for war. We are already at war, I replied. And I'm going to win. 3 weeks after my birthday, Gwen made her next desperate move. She posted an old photograph of our wedding on social media with a long, dramatic text telling her version of the story. After 26 years of marriage, of sacrificing my youth and my dreams for my family, my husband abandoned me with nothing. He froze my accounts, took away access to my own home, and now intends to leave me on the street, all because I finally found the courage to be happy. This is financial abuse. This is cruelty, but I won't stay silent. The post went viral in hours, thousands of comments, most supporting her, calling me a monster, saying I was a controlling and abusive man. Some even called for a boycott of my company. Ashley and Victoria shared the post, adding their own comments. Our father abandoned us after revealing we are adopted. He used us for years and now discarded us like trash. My phone wouldn't stop ringing, reporters wanting statements, friends asking if it was true, clients worried about the company's image. Michael called me, alarmed. "Arthur, this is getting out of control. We need damage control." "No," I replied calmly. "Let them keep digging." "What?" "Every word they post, every lie they tell, is evidence. Screenshot everything. Save every comment. We are letting them build their own trap." And I was right. Because Gwen, in her desperation to gain public sympathy, committed a crucial error. In an interview she gave to a local news blog, she said, "My husband was always cold and distant. He never really loved our adopted daughters. He used them as accessories to seem like a good man." Michael saw the interview and smiled. She just publicly admitted she knew the girls were adopted. That contradicts what she said in her first post, where she insinuated you hid the info maliciously. And that helps us. It helps us a lot. It proves she is lying and manipulating the narrative. A judge will see this. But Gwen didn't stop there. She organized a protest in front of my office. Her, Ashley, Victoria, and a group of about 20 women she recruited from feminist groups on social media. Signs that said, "Justice for Gwen, no to financial abuse. Rich men don't own women." Local news covered the protest. They interviewed Gwen. She cried in front of the cameras. "I just want what's fair. I just want to be able to survive. He has millions and I have nothing." That night I counterattacked. But not with protests or emotional posts. With facts. Michael organized a press conference. I stood in front of the cameras in a dark gray suit, calm, serene. Beside me, a table with perfectly organized documents. "Good afternoon," I began. "I have kept silent for 3 weeks while my name was dragged through the mud, but I think it is time to clarify some facts." I lifted the first document. This is the prenuptial agreement signed by Gwen 26 years ago, notarized with witnesses, perfectly legal. It clearly stipulates that in case of proven infidelity, she waives rights to my assets. I lifted the second document, an envelope with photographs. These are photographic evidences of Gwen's extramarital relationship during the last 6 months. I have 50 more photographs. I have audio recordings where she admits planning to take my money after the divorce. I have bank statements showing she misappropriated funds to buy gifts for her lover using marital assets. The reporters began taking notes frantically. "Regarding my daughters," I continued, "it is true they are adopted. I adopted them legally when they were babies. I raised them with love for 25 and 22 years, respectively. I paid for their education, their trips, their whims." I paused. Those trust funds were frozen not out of cruelty, but because the established clauses clearly indicate they are forfeited in case of grave disrespect toward me. I have recordings where my daughters celebrate my humiliation, where they plan to take my money, where they admit they never valued me. I lifted one last document. And finally, I have proof that Gwen lied to me from the beginning. She told me she was infertile and that's why we adopted. But recent medical investigations prove she never had fertility problems. She lied to manipulate me emotionally and get what she wanted, a perfect-looking family without the sacrifice of pregnancy. I let the document fall onto the table. The sound resonated in the silent room. I am not an abuser. I am a man who worked his whole life to provide for his family, a man who was betrayed in the vilest way possible. And I am a man who is not going to allow himself to be robbed using divorce laws as a weapon. I left the room without answering questions. Michael stayed to handle the rest. The counteroffensive worked perfectly. By the next morning, the headlines had changed. Unfaithful wife sues man who supported her for 26 years. Photographic evidence proves adultery. Ungrateful daughters lose inheritance for celebrating adoptive father's humiliation. Public opinion did a 180-degree turn. The comments on Gwen's posts changed. Now they called her a liar, manipulator, gold digger. Ashley and Victoria deleted their social media. They couldn't handle the harassment. Gwen tried to make another post defending herself, but it only made things worse. The photographs were taken out of context. Marcus and I truly love each other. Money was never important. People laughed at her. Not important? That's why you plan to take $4 million, someone commented. 2 days later, Marcus made a public statement that completely sank Gwen. He gave an interview to a radio show where he admitted, "Look, I'm an honest guy. Gwen approached me at the gym. She told me she was rich, that she was unhappy in her marriage. She promised me we were going to live well when she divorced. I didn't know the guy had everything legally protected. When I found out she wasn't going to get anything, I ended the relationship. I'm not gonna lie, the money was part of the attraction. She's 45, I'm 35. We weren't going to be together for eternal love." That interview destroyed whatever credibility Gwen had left. Even the women who had supported her at the protest distanced themselves. One of them posted, "She used us. She lied to us. She made us believe she was a victim when in reality she was a woman trying to rob her husband." Gwen became toxic, radioactive. No one wanted to associate with her. Meanwhile, I continued working normally. My company didn't suffer any damage. In fact, some clients congratulated me for handling the situation with such class and solid evidence. One afternoon, I received an unexpected call. It was Beth, Gwen's younger sister. I hadn't spoken to her in years. "Arthur, it's Beth. I need to talk to you." "About what?" "About Gwen. About this whole mess." She paused. "She's destroyed. No money, no house. Marcus left her. The girls are furious with her for ruining their lives. She's living in my mom's apartment, sleeping on a sofa. And you're telling me this because you need to know the truth. Gwen was always like this. Since she was a child, manipulative, liar. She married you for money. I knew it. The whole family knew it. But no one told you anything because she threatened to cut us out of her life. Why tell me this now? Because I'm sick of her lies. And because you deserve to know she never loved you. From day one, she only saw your economic potential. When you were young and just starting, she almost left you. But her mother convinced her to stay because hardworking men always prosper. I felt something strange in my chest. It wasn't pain. It was confirmation. Thanks for telling me, Beth. Arthur, one more thing. The girls, Ashley and Victoria, Gwen raised them to be like her. She taught them that men are tools. That money is the only thing that matters. It's no excuse for how they treated you, but I wanted you to know they were poisoned since they were little. I hung up and sat in silence for an hour. My entire adult life had been a lie. 26 years married to a woman who never loved me. 25 years raising daughters who were programmed to despise me. But I didn't feel sadness anymore. I felt liberation. That night, Michael sent me a message. "The preliminary trial is in 2 weeks. Are you ready?" "More than ever," I replied. The day of the preliminary trial arrived with a gray and threatening sky. I arrived at the courthouse at 8 a.m., 30 minutes before the scheduled time. Michael was already there reviewing documents in his briefcase. "Nervous?" he asked. "Not at all," I replied honestly. "I have the truth on my side and all the proof." Gwen arrived 15 minutes later with her lawyer, Uriah. She looked haggard. She had lost weight, deep circles under her eyes, hair without its former shine. She wore a simple gray dress, probably borrowed. She no longer looked like the arrogant woman who raised that glass on my birthday. Ashley and Victoria entered behind her. They also looked different. No expensive makeup, no designer clothes. Financial reality had hit them hard. We sat on opposite sides of the room. Gwen looked at me once. I held her gaze until she looked down. The judge entered. A woman in her 60s, gray hair tied back, serious expression. Judge Alice Montgomery, according to the plaque on her desk. "Good morning," she began. "We are here for the preliminary hearing in the divorce case of Gwen Miller versus Arthur Miller. Mr. Uriah Miller, proceed with your opening argument." Uriah stood up, cleared his throat. "Your Honor, my client was married to Mr. Arthur for 26 years. During that time, she sacrificed her youth, her professional opportunities, and her personal development to maintain the home while Mr. Arthur built his business empire. Now he intends to leave her with nothing. Invoking a prenuptial agreement signed over 2 decades ago, when my client was a young woman in love who did not fully understand the legal implications. The judge was taking notes. We request that the prenuptial agreement be invalidated for manifest inequity. We also request fair compensation for the years of service my client dedicated to this marriage. We propose a sum of $1 million and the property where she resided for 26 years. Michael stood up when it was his turn. Your Honor, With all due respect to my colleague, this is not a story of sacrifice, but of calculated betrayal. Mr. Arthur has irrefutable evidence of infidelity by Mrs. Gwen. He placed a thick folder on the judge's desk. More than 50 photographs. Audio recordings where she admits planning to seize marital assets. Bank statements proving misappropriation of funds to buy gifts for her lover. The prenuptial agreement was signed voluntarily. We have video of the entire session where a notary explained every clause. Mrs. Gwen asked questions, expressed total understanding, signed with her own hand. There is no legal basis to invalidate it. The judge opened the folder, began reviewing the photographs. Her expression didn't change, but I saw her eyes moving from image to image. After 10 minutes of silence, she spoke. Mr. Miller, I have reviewed the evidence presented by the defense. The photographs are clear. The recordings are incriminating. Does your client have any explanation for this? Uriah looked at Gwen. She leaned in and whispered something to him. He nodded and addressed the judge. Your Honor, my client admits she made mistakes, that her relationship with Mr. Marcus was inappropriate. But she argues that relationship stemmed from years of emotional neglect by her husband, of a dead marriage where she felt alone and abandoned. Michael stood up immediately. Objection, Your Honor. Emotional neglect is not legal justification for adultery and certainly does not invalidate a voluntarily signed contract. Sustained, said the judge. She looked at Gwen directly. Mrs. Gwen, is it true you signed the prenuptial agreement voluntarily? Gwen stood up slowly. Her voice came out trembling. Yes, Your Honor, but I was young. I was in love. I didn't think I would ever need it. Were the terms of the agreement explained to you? Yes, but did you ask questions during the session? Yes. Did you sign the document after those questions were answered? Gwen lowered her head. Yes. Then the agreement is valid. The judge closed the folder. Motion to invalidate the prenuptial agreement denied. Uriah looked defeated. Gwen began to cry silently. However, continued the judge, I must consider the matter of the adopted daughters. Mr. Arthur, I understand you froze the trust funds of Ashley and Victoria Miller. Correct, Michael answered for me. Correct, Your Honor. The trusts have clauses allowing revocation in case of grave disrespect toward the grantor. We have evidence that both young women publicly celebrated my client's humiliation. We have recordings where they express contempt toward him, and we have testimonies from 30 witnesses who witnessed their behavior during Mr. Arthur's birthday. Are the young women present? Ashley and Victoria stood up nervously. Is it true you applauded when your mother announced she was leaving your father? Asked the judge. The two looked at each other. Finally, Ashley responded, Yes, Your Honor, but we didn't fully understand the situation. Our mother had told us that. Did you applaud or did you not applaud? Yes, murmured Ashley. Did you say your father was never present for you? I did say that. The judge looked at them for a long moment. Young ladies, I have children, and I cannot imagine a scenario where they would celebrate my public humiliation, especially after I gave them everything their entire lives. She paused. The trust funds remain frozen. Mr. Arthur has every right to revoke them under the established clauses. Victoria began to cry. Ashley closed her eyes tightly. Now, regarding temporary support, continued the judge. Mr. Miller, your client has very limited current resources. Your Honor, she is living with her mother. She has no income. She has education, job training. Uriah hesitated. My client was a housewife for 26 years. Michael intervened. Your Honor, Mrs. Gwen has a bachelor's degree in business administration. She is 45 years old. She is perfectly capable of working. Furthermore, she has $22,000 in a secret bank account she opened without my client's knowledge. The judge raised her eyebrows. $22,000? Yes, Your Honor. Money she withdrew from joint accounts for months to prepare her exit. The judge addressed Gwen. Do you have $22,000 available? Gwen nodded weakly. Then you have sufficient resources to support yourself while you seek employment. Request for temporary support denied. Uriah slumped in his chair. Gwen sobbed openly. We will now schedule the formal trial for 6 weeks from now, said the judge. Until then, current orders remain in effect. Mr. Arthur maintains total control of all assets. Mrs. Gwen has no access to properties, accounts, or vehicles. Mrs. Ashley and Victoria have no access to their trusts. She banged the gavel. Session adjourned. I left the courtroom with Michael. Outside, reporters were waiting. This time, I made no statements, just walked toward my car. But before getting in, I heard a voice behind me. "Arthur, please." It was Gwen. She had run after me. Uriah tried to stop her, but she ignored him. "Arthur, please, let's talk. Can we fix this?" I turned to look at her. "There is nothing to fix, Gwen. You lost on every front. I have to eat. I have to live somewhere. You have $22,000 and you have a university degree. Get a job like the rest of the world. After 26 years, this is how you discard me? You discarded me first on my birthday in front of everyone. Remember? I made a mistake." "No, Gwen. A mistake is forgetting a date, an accident. You planned my destruction for months, and now you live with the consequences." I got into the car, closed the door. She banged on the window, but I started the engine and drove away. That night, I received a message from Ashley. "Dad, please reconsider. Can we be a family again?" I didn't reply. Another message from Victoria. "I hate you. You ruined our lives." I didn't reply to that either. The war continued, but victory was already guaranteed. The 6 weeks between the preliminary hearing and the formal trial were revealing. Not for me, but for Gwen, Ashley, and Victoria, because they finally experienced something they had never known in their lives: real consequences. Michael kept me informed of everything. Gwen had gotten a job as a receptionist at a dental clinic. She was making $15 an hour. For a woman used to spending $5,000 monthly just on clothes, it was a devastating blow. Ashley had to sell her designer bags on resale apps like Poshmark. She got a job at a department store folding clothes, $14 an hour. Victoria, who had never worked a day in her life, ended up as a waitress at a fast food diner. Both had to move into a small apartment they shared. No luxuries, no amenities. Gwen's $22,000 evaporated in 3 weeks. She paid 2 months' rent up front on a tiny studio, bought a used car for $4,000 that broke down every week. The rest went to food, gas, and paying urgent credit card debts. I, meanwhile, went on with my life. I worked, I traveled, I closed a $3 million contract with a distributor in Texas. I bought a new condo in the most exclusive area of the city. Smaller than the house, but perfect for me alone. One night, 2 weeks before the trial, my doorbell rang at 11 p.m. I looked at the security camera. It was Victoria. I opened the door, but left the security chain on. "What are you doing here?" She looked terrible. Wrinkled clothes, unwashed hair, deep circles. "Dad, please, I need to talk to you. We have nothing to talk about. I'm living in hell. I work 12 hours a day. My feet hurt. People treat me like trash. I can't take it anymore." "Welcome to the real world, Victoria. The world where the rest of humanity lives. You could stop this. You could give me my money back. You could help me." "How did you help me on my birthday?" "By applauding my humiliation." "I was an idiot. I didn't know." "You knew exactly what you were doing. You just didn't know there would be consequences. Please." She knelt in front of my door. "I beg you, forgive me. I'll do whatever." "Get up, Victoria. I'm not changing my mind for a dramatic show." "What do you want me to do? Suffer more? Be humiliated more?" "I don't want anything from you. That is the point. You are no longer my problem." I closed the door. I heard her crying on the other side for 5 minutes before leaving. The next day, Ashley tried a different tactic. She sent me an email with a business plan attached. She wanted to open a clothing boutique. Needed $50,000 initial investment. Promised to pay me back in 2 years with interest. I deleted the email without reading the full plan. A week before the trial, Gwen made her last desperate attempt. She posted on social media again, but this time with a different focus. She posted old photographs of when the girls were little, of birthdays, of Christmases, of family vacations. "Look at what Arthur, if you are reading this, please remember these moments. Remember when we were happy. Don't let resentment destroy everything we built together." The post received some supportive comments, but most people already knew the whole story. "You destroyed it with your infidelity," someone commented. "The consequences are yours." The day of the formal trial arrived. This time the courtroom was full. Reporters, onlookers, people who had followed the case in the news. Judge Alice entered punctually. "We will proceed with the divorce case. Are both parties ready?" Michael and Uriah nodded. During the next 4 hours, Michael presented evidence after evidence. The photos of Gwen with Marcus, the recordings where she planned to take my money, the bank statements from her secret account, the receipts of gifts bought for her lover, the full video of the session where she signed the prenup. Uriah tried to counterattack by presenting testimonies from Gwen's friends who declared I was emotionally distant and a workaholic, but the judge was not impressed. "Being a workaholic is not grounds for divorce," she said firmly, "and certainly does not justify adultery nor annul a legal contract." Then came the testimonies. Michael called 3 friends who were at my birthday to the stand. Each described the scene: Gwen's announcement, my daughter's applause, my revelation about the adoption. "How did Mr. Arthur look during all this?" asked Michael. "Calm," answered one. "Too calm for someone who had just been publicly humiliated, as if he expected it to happen. Because I had expected it, I had planned it all." Uriah called Gwen to the stand. She cried during her entire testimony. She spoke of sacrifices, of years dedicated to the family, of feeling lonely, of seeking comfort in Marcus. "Did you know, Mr. Arthur had been a good provider?" asked Uriah. "Yes," admitted Gwen between sobs. "Did he give you a comfortable life?" "Yes." Uriah couldn't do much more. The facts were the facts. When it was my turn to testify, Michael asked me only 3 questions. "Mr. Arthur, did you love your wife during this marriage?" "Yes. For many years I believed our marriage was real." "Did you love your adopted daughters?" "I raised them as if they were my own blood. I gave them everything." "Do you regret the decisions you took after discovering the betrayal?" I looked directly at Gwen. "No, not for a second." The judge heard final arguments from both lawyers. Then she retired to deliberate. She returned 30 minutes later. "I have reviewed all evidence presented. I have heard all testimonies, and I have reached a clear conclusion." She looked at Gwen. "Mrs. Miller, you violated your marital agreement in the most flagrant way possible. You committed adultery, planned to appropriate assets that did not belong to you, and now seek to benefit economically from a contract you yourself broke." Gwen was shaking. "Therefore, the divorce is granted with the following terms. Mr. Arthur maintains all business assets, properties, vehicles, and bank accounts. Mrs. Gwen will receive no compensation whatsoever. She will not receive alimony. She will not receive a share of marital property." Uriah closed his eyes. Gwen collapsed in her chair. "Regarding Mrs. Ashley and Victoria Miller, the trust funds remain revoked. Mr. Arthur has every legal right to do this under the established clauses." Ashley began to cry. Victoria ran out of the room. "This case is closed. I request both parties sign final documents within the next 7 days." She banged the gavel. Session adjourned. Gwen tried to approach me when we were leaving, but Michael blocked her. "There is nothing more to discuss, ma'am. Everything is resolved legally." Reporters surrounded me outside the courthouse. This time I made a brief statement. Justice was done. A contract was respected. A betrayal had consequences. I do not seek revenge. I only sought to protect what I built with my effort. Thank you. That night in my new condo, I poured myself a whiskey, looked out the window at the city lights. 26 years of my life had officially ended. A family that was never real had dissolved. But for the first time in decades, I felt something resembling peace. 3 months after the trial, my life had changed completely. I moved cities. I didn't flee. I simply decided to start over in a place where no one knew my story. I chose San Diego, California. Near the ocean, perfect climate, business opportunities. I sold the house I lived in with Gwen for $800,000. Every penny went to my corporate account. I sold 2 of the 3 luxury cars. I kept just one, a black, discreet Tesla. My company continued to prosper. In fact, it grew without the distractions of a fake marriage, without the emotional weight of ungrateful daughters. I could focus completely. I closed contracts in California, Arizona, and Nevada. My import company expanded operations. I hired 15 new employees. Michael visited me a month after I moved. He arrived on a Saturday afternoon. I received him in my new apartment, a penthouse with a view of the Pacific. "Impressive," he said, looking out the window. "You definitely upgraded." "It was necessary," I replied, pouring him coffee. Did you bring the final documents? All signed. The divorce is completely closed. Gwen signed without protest. She doesn't have a lawyer anymore. She can't afford one. And the girls? Ashley got a better job. Administrative assistant in an office. She makes $2,000 a month. Victoria is still a waitress, but now at a nicer restaurant. Tips are better. Michael paused. Both are still living together in that small apartment. They struggle, but they survive. Good, I said without emotion. Do you ever regret it? Asked Michael. I mean, it was 25 years raising those girls. Every day that passes, I regret it less. It was 25 years investing in people who never valued me. Now I invest in myself. Michael smiled. You look better, calmer, younger. He was right. I had lost 20 pounds. I started working out every morning. Ate better, slept better. The rage and resentment I carried for 6 months while planning my revenge were finally gone. Hear anything about Gwen? I asked, more out of curiosity than real interest. She's still working at the dental clinic. She quit social media, lives alone in that studio, drives that old car that breaks down constantly. Michael pulled out his phone. Although there is something you should know. He showed me a post in a local Facebook group. It was from a woman warning about Marcus, the personal trainer. This man is a con artist. He approaches older women with money, promises them love, uses them, and leaves them when he discovers he can't get anything out of them. How many victims? I asked. According to the comments, at least 6 women have shared similar stories. One lost $50,000 lending him money for a business. Another bought him a car. Gwen got lucky in a way. She only lost her marriage and her reputation. That night, after Michael left, I stayed thinking. I didn't feel pity for Gwen, nor for Ashley, nor for Victoria. They made their choices, celebrated my humiliation, planned to rob me. Now they lived the consequences. But if I felt something resembling satisfaction, it wasn't a cruel satisfaction, but the satisfaction of a man who regained his dignity. 4 months after the move, something unexpected happened. I received an email. The sender was Ashley. Dad, I know you probably will delete this without reading it, but I need to try. I'm not writing to ask for money. I'm not writing to beg. I just want to tell you something I should have said years ago. Thank you. Thank you for adopting me when no one else wanted me. Thank you for giving me a life I never would have had. Thank you for paying for my education, my trips, everything. I was an ingrate, a terrible daughter. And now, working 8 hours a day for minimum wage, I finally understand the sacrifice you made for 25 years. I don't expect your forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I finally understand. Ashley. I read the email 3 times. I didn't reply, but I didn't delete it either. A week later, another email arrived, this time from Victoria. Arthur, I'm not going to call you Dad because I lost that right. I just want to tell you that you were right about everything. Mom poisoned us against you since we were little. She taught us that men only serve to provide, that money was the only important thing, and I, like an idiot, believed her. I applauded when she humiliated you because I thought it was funny. I thought you were weak. Now I know you were strong. Stronger than any of us. I am working on being a better person. Not for you, but for me. Because I don't want to end up like Mom, bitter and alone. I hope you are happy, truly. Victoria. I didn't reply to that email either, but something inside me shifted slightly. 2 weeks later, I was walking along the boardwalk in San Diego when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Arthur. It was a voice I didn't recognize at first. Who is this? It's Beth, Gwen's sister. Ah, hello Beth. Did something happen? Gwen is in the hospital. Her voice sounded worried. She had a nervous breakdown at work. They found her crying in the bathroom, hyperventilating. They took her to the ER. I felt nothing, absolutely nothing. I'm sorry to hear that. Arthur, I know you shouldn't care. I know she did terrible things to you. But she is destroyed, completely broken. She lost everything. Her pride, her dignity, her family. She chose that path, Beth. I know, and I'm not asking you to forgive her. I just thought you should know. She paused. The girls are with her now. They are also devastated. Seeing their mother like this opened their eyes completely. What do you want me to do? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I just wanted you to know that your revenge was complete. You won everything." I hung up and kept walking. The sun was setting over the ocean. The waves broke gently against the shore. I won. Yes, technically I won. But it didn't feel like victory. It felt like justice, like balance restored. That night I made a decision. I wrote 2 emails. The first to Ashley. "I received your message. I don't forgive you yet. Maybe I never will. But I recognize your effort to be better. Keep going. Build your own life. Show that you learned not with words, but with actions." The second to Victoria. "Your honesty is appreciated. You are right, your mother poisoned you. But you were old enough to think for yourselves. Now you are old enough to rebuild yourselves. Do it." I didn't send them money. I didn't offer help. Just acknowledgement of their effort. 2 months later, Ashley sent me a photograph. Her receiving an award at her work as Employee of the Month. "Small steps," she wrote in the message. Victoria sent me a screenshot of her enrollment in night classes for accounting at a community college. Investing in myself, like you said. I didn't reply to those messages, but I saved them. 6 months after moving to San Diego, I met someone. A woman named Patricia, 50 years old, divorced. Owner of an art gallery, independent, smart, no kids, no drama. Our first date was a simple coffee. We talked for 3 hours. She knew my story, it had been in the news, but she didn't judge me. "You did the right thing," she told me. "You protected what was yours. You taught a hard but necessary lesson. Don't you think I was cruel?" "I think you were fair. Cruelty would have been physical revenge. You used the law. You used contracts. You used natural consequences." I liked her perspective. I liked her clarity. 6 months later, Patricia and I were still together. We didn't live together. We didn't have plans to marry. We just enjoyed each other's company. No pressure, no unrealistic expectations. A year after the trial, I received a package by mail. Inside was a handwritten letter from Ashley. "Arthur, it has been 12 months since I lost everything. They were the 12 hardest months of my life, but also the most important. I learned to value work. I learned humility. I learned gratitude. I got a better job as an administrative manager. I earned triple what I was earning. Victoria and I moved to a bigger apartment. We are building our lives from scratch, and although we will never recover what we lost, we are building something better. Self-respect. Thank you for the hardest lesson of our lives." I put the letter in a drawer. I hadn't forgiven them completely, perhaps never would, but I could recognize their growth. 2 years after my 51st birthday, I sat on the terrace of my penthouse in San Diego watching the sunset. Patricia was next to me reading a book. My company had doubled its profits. I had peace. I had purpose. I had a life that was finally mine. The phone rang. Unknown number from my previous city. I hesitated, but answered. "Arthur." It was Gwen's voice. Older, more tired. "What do you need, Gwen?" "Nothing. I don't need anything from you. I just wanted to tell you something before it's too late." "Too late for what?" "I was diagnosed with severe depression. I'm in therapy, medicated, and my therapist suggested I do something I should have done 2 years ago, apologize for real." I waited in silence. "Arthur, I was a terrible wife, a terrible person. I used you for 26 years. I never valued you, and when you finally had the courage to defend yourself, I hated you for it. But now, after 2 years living the consequences of my actions, I finally understand. You weren't the villain. I was." Her voice broke. "I don't expect your forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I finally understood. Too late, but I understood. Gwen, I wish you the best, truly. I hope you find peace. You hate me?" "No. I don't feel anything toward you anymore. Not love, not hate, nothing. And that is liberating." I hung up. Patricia looked at me. "How do you feel?" "Good. Surprisingly good. Because it was true. I didn't feel rage. I didn't feel vengeful satisfaction. Just quiet indifference." 3 months later, Ashley called me. This time I answered on the first ring. "Dad," she said, and I noticed she used that word carefully. "I have news. I got a promotion. Regional manager. I'm going to make $60,000 a year. Congratulations, Ashley." "You achieved it by yourself." "Yes." And it feels incredible. Different than when I had money I didn't earn. She paused. Victoria also has news. She graduated from her accounting program, got a job at a firm, starting at $40,000 a year. I'm glad to hear that. Dad, we want to see you, not to ask for anything, just to talk, so you can see who we are now. I thought about it for a long moment. Give me your address. I'll come visit next month. A month later, I drove 6 hours back to my old city. I didn't stay in my old neighborhood. I booked a hotel downtown. Ashley and Victoria now lived in a modest but clean apartment complex. When I knocked on the door, Ashley opened. She looked completely different. No heavy makeup, simple but professional clothes, clear eyes. Dad, she said, and this time there was real emotion in her voice. Come in, please. The apartment was small, 2 bedrooms, second-hand furniture, but well kept. Victoria came out of the kitchen. She also looked different, more mature, more responsible. We sat in the living room. There was coffee and cookies on the table. Thanks for coming, said Victoria. I know you didn't have to. I wanted to see how you were. We're good, answered Ashley. Finally, we are good. We don't have luxuries, we don't have extra money, but we have something we never had before. Self-pride. Victoria nodded. When we had everything, we were miserable. Now that we built everything from scratch, we are happy. It's strange. It's not strange, I said. It's what happens when you value what you have because you earned it. We spent 3 hours talking. They told me about their jobs, their goals, their dreams. They didn't mention money, or inheritances, or trusts. They talked about who they wanted to be. Before leaving, Ashley gave me an envelope. This is for you. Inside were 2 checks. One from Ashley for $500, one from Victoria for $300. What is this? It's the start, said Ashley. We calculated that we owe you approximately $500,000 for everything you spent on us over 25 years. Education, clothes, trips, everything. These are the first payments. We don't expect you to accept them, but we needed to do it. The checks trembled in my hands. You don't have to do this. Yes, we do, insisted Victoria. For us, to prove that we finally understand the value of money, the value of sacrifice. I put the checks in my pocket. I'm going to keep them. But I'm not going to cash them. I'm going to keep them as a reminder that you grew up. I hugged them before leaving. It was the first real hug we shared in 3 years. Back in San Diego, I stopped at a lookout point. I pulled out my phone and opened an account I hadn't touched in 2 years. Ashley and Victoria's trust funds, $300,000 each. Frozen. I called Michael. I need you to do something for me. Whatever you need. The girls' trust funds. I want to unfreeze them, but with new conditions. What kind of conditions? They are released in 5 years. If by then they have demonstrated financial responsibility, steady work, and personal growth, they will receive the full money plus interest. If not, it gets donated to charity. Are you sure? Completely. I'm not doing this for them. I'm doing it for me. To close that chapter correctly, 3 months later, Patricia and I got engaged. It wasn't an elaborate proposal. It was an honest conversation about building a life together, without lies, without secrets, with a clear prenuptial agreement that protected both of us. The wedding was small, 20 guests. On the beach. Michael was my best man. I didn't invite Ashley or Victoria. I wasn't ready for that yet. But I sent them a photograph. I found real happiness, I wrote. I hope you find it too. Ashley replied, You look happy, Dad. That's all we ever wanted for you, even if it took us too long to realize. Gwen never contacted me again. I knew through Beth that she got a better job, that she was coming out of depression, that she finally accepted the life she created herself. 5 years after that 51st birthday, I sat on the same terrace of my penthouse. I was 56 years old. Patricia was sleeping in the bedroom. My company was worth $12 million. I had created a foundation helping young entrepreneurs. Michael called me that morning. The 5 years are up. Ashley and Victoria qualified for their trust funds. Stable jobs, responsible finances, demonstrable growth. Release the funds. Releasing them. That afternoon I received calls from both of them, crying, thanking me. Not for the money, but for the second opportunity. What are you going to do with that money? I asked. Invest it, replied Ashley. Open my own business, but do it right this time. Pay for my masters, said Victoria, and start a savings fund. I learned from you, Dad. Money is protected, respected. That night, while watching the ocean, I thought about everything that had happened. The betrayal, the humiliation, the revenge, the justice, the forgiveness, the growth. Did I do the right thing? Absolutely. Was I cruel? No. Was I fair? Yes. I regret nothing. Because sometimes the greatest love you can give is letting people face the consequences of their actions. And sometimes the most effective revenge isn't destroying someone, but teaching them to value what they lost. Gwen learned. Ashley learned. Victoria learned. And I learned that my value never depended on being accepted by people who didn't deserve me. Now, at 56, I was finally free.